Welcome to the Founder Spotlight interview, where we bring to you conversation from founders, CEOs, and individuals shaping the industry. In today's edition, I'm glad to be joined by a man I call the monopolist in the phone and accessory market. He's no other person than Passy Phone. Without wasting much of your time, let's move to section one of this interview, which is his identity and his journey. The first question under this session is: who is the man behind Passy Phones?
Okay, I go by the name Abonge Pascal.
All
That's
right.
the man behind Passy Phones.
All right, you all have been hearing about passive phone, passive phones. I guess now you know his name. So the second question under this session is: how did you start? What was your first step?
Okay, how I got into the phone business. Okay, so basically I started back when I was in the university or even as far back as secondary school. We used to buy phones and resell on Facebook groups, right? There was this particular group on Facebook, Avenue Kennedy Online. So you could buy phones from anywhere and then buy them really cheap. You go to the group and sell them. At some point now, my brother, we used to do the business together. He traveled, he went abroad. So he used to send like a few copies of phones and then we resell just like that. At some point, it was going well. So that's when I decided to open a shop. So I opened the first shop in Yaoundé. I think that was 2021. And then around 2023, I then moved to Douala.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's how passive phone started.
Yeah.
When you were selling on those groups on Facebook, did you start with any capital, or you just had to know someone who has a phone and he's selling and you just take the phone and market and sell?
At times it was basically my personal phone. I would buy a personal phone and then if I can find it really cheap, right, I
Yeah.
resell it. Maybe at some point, yeah, you need some more capital, but it wasn't anything more than like 50, 100K. We just buy a single phone or two phones at most, and then you try to resell and make profit.
All right. So nowadays, do you think for someone to start, they really need capital, or they can just know someone who needs a phone and someone who is selling a phone and just connect the buyer with the seller and make their own profit from it?
To make it a sustainable business, you obviously need capital. But if you want to grow from scratch, it will take you time. It's possible, but it's quite difficult. It will take time. But let's say you want to be a sustainable business like that, you need capital. Obviously, business is funding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Percy. So let's have a break, and it's a fun one. I'm going to ask you this quick question: between
Okay.
phones and accessory, which brings the most profit?
For me, I focus more on phones, so I make more profit from phones than from accessories. But there's somebody out there who focuses more on accessories, so he makes more money from accessories
Accessories than
than
phone.
phones. Yeah, even though I deal with both, but I focus more on phones. So accessories just to accompany the phone business. So I make more money from phones, but it doesn't mean that there is more profit in selling phones than accessories.
Accessory.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Percy. Now let's move to section two of this interview, which is his struggle and his breakthrough. Under this section, the first question is: what were your biggest challenges when you started?
Okay, when I started, the biggest difficulty I faced was having authentic supplies, like good quality stuff, right?
Yeah.
A lot of returns. You buy, maybe you can sell 5 phones, maybe two, three, end up coming back and all of that. That is what really delayed my growth. Having quality supplies. If I could have the quality supplies back then, what I have now, if I could have the same supplies back then, I think I would have gone way further than this. Yeah.
So how did you handle that? Maybe a client buys a phone and goes back, the phone is not functioning properly, and they come back. How do you handle that?
You take the loss, right? Because it's not the client's fault, it's your fault. So you take the loss. That's why it delays growth.
And there's no way you can maybe transship the loss to the supplier.
Some are returnable, some are not returnable. Some you just have to maybe repair the phone and sell it at a lower cost.
Hmm. So is that a challenge, or is that a negative side of this business people don't know
It's
about?
a it's a very big negative side of the business that people and a lot of people getting into the business don't know about returns. Yeah, it's a very big problem.
And what do you have to tell young business owners or people who are like planning to get into this phone business, how to source a better supplier or how to check a phone to avoid these returns?
Generally, what you can tell them is focus on getting authentic stuff, right? Forget about trying to sell cheap because a lot of people, most people, is selling very cheap. they deal with a lot of returns that you will never know about. You get,
All right.
yeah. So just focus on quality. It's more sustainable than maybe just focusing on maybe you want to sell really really cheap. You want to be the cheapest in the
In the
market.
market.
You look for the lowest quality phone because you can have a phone for any amount of money. You can have the same phone for 100K, can have the same phone for 500K. It just depends on the quality. But the cheaper it gets, you know that you have a lot to deal with. Yeah,
All right. Thank you so much for that. So if you're out there and you're planning to start a phone business, you should focus on quality first, not that I want to be the cheapest in the market and stuff like that.
exactly.
There's a lot of return in that aspect. So the next question under this session is: at what point did you realize your business could become big?
I don't know. I've just always been working and then watching it grow. So, well, I don't know how far, but I feel like it's working, it's growing, and there's still a lot ahead. There's still more to come.
Exactly. So there's no point in your life where you feel like this thing, it's not just a dream. I feel like in 2 to 3 years from now, I'll be like one of the biggest phone vendors in maybe Africa, not even Cameroon. There's no point in your life where you've had that feeling.
Not really, because anyway, every day we are growing, but at the same time, you are hoping for the best, but then you still
Yes,
expect the
expect the
worst,
worst.
right? If every That's why you say everything being equal, maybe by next year we will not be in the same place. But then we don't know. Look, for example, nobody expected this phone tax of a thing that's coming up, and if it actually works, that's going to be like a big setback. All the plans you have, or everything you planned to achieve, maybe by the end of the year you'll not end up achieving all of that. So let's just see how it goes.
Let's pray that doesn't work.
Yeah.
All right, so we are going to have a fun break. A quick question: iPhone or Android?
I always go for iPhone.
Why?
I just love the ecosystem, and maybe it's also I've been used to it. You get, there
Mm-hmm.
are people who prefer Android, but for me, at the end of the day, none is really better than the other. It's just what you love, what you're used to.
But
Yeah.
there is this saying that iPhone people who use iPhone are in a higher class than people who use Android. Are the Android phones that are more expensive than iPhones?
Yeah, the most expensive one is not an iPhone. Most expensive Androids are more expensive than iPhones actually. You get, so at the end of the day, it's just that iPhone is that kind of a trendy product. So
Um,
yeah, that's why more people actually use iPhones than Android. Yeah,
all right,
but
thank you.
then Android has the most expensive phones.
Thank you so much for that. So the next one is online or walking customers.
Mm. Even the customers who come to the shop, they will
Yeah,
only find you online before they come to the shop. So I would say online customers because like yeah,
all the
my
customers are definitely, or
yeah
90% of them are coming from
yeah, that's a real
online.
deal online.
All right, thank you
Mhm.
so much for that, Passy.